Hi there, folks. Steve Raza, Johnson County Library over here in Buffalo. Got with me today Gene Gagliano, Wyoming's Poet Laureate, who's going to talk to you folks about his books and writing in general. Feel free if you have any questions at the end. We can maybe get some of those to Gene. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. This is my first, what do you want to call this, webinar?
Webinar, yeah.
And I'd like to start with saying that actually this is Gene before. This is Gene a little bit later. And sad to say, this is Gene now. Well, this is a little difficult for me because I'm used to interacting with people, but I'm going to pretend that I have an audience. Of course, I have Steve here. My writing journey began with my very old friends, and I think you know them, Dick and Jane. Some of you would know. This is how I learned to read from these books. And I remember being very excited when I first learned to read. It was kind of neat. But then I became a better reader, and one day my grandmother came home with a used book, and that book was Surprise Island by Gertrude Chandler Warner. And that's when I really began to read books. I remember I couldn't put this down. This was a big adventure for a young fellow like me. After that, I got into the Walter Farley books. They're all stories about horses, and I enjoyed those immensely. And after that, I don't really remember what I read. Maybe there was some Dr. Dolittle and other things. However, I don't remember reading much in high school and college except for required reading. At a very young age, I was interested in growing plants and flowers. So in 1957, I wrote a poem. And my 7th grade English teacher, Mrs. Irving, read the poem. She liked it, and she said, "We should publish that in the school paper." So she did. And I happened to find it going through my file the other day. It goes like this. Flowers. The lilies white are bursting, the daffodils trumpets play, the bluebells ring their tinkling tune as the sunrise heralds day. The asters shredded beauty, the mums in a crust of gold, the velvet petals of roses are beginning to unfold. And I thought, wow, I wrote that in 7th grade. Not too bad. At that point then, I believed that I was a published writer. So I continued writing poetry. In high school, I was in one of my English classes. I think it was 10th grade. I don't remember the teacher's name now, but she was walking by the class, and she was going around the room, and she came to me, and I was writing a poem, obviously not paying attention. She said, "Gene, let me have it." So I handed it to her. She read it. She goes, "This is really good. I'll see you after class. We'll see if we can get this published." And she handed it back to me. And then she said, "Now pay attention to the lesson." Well, I don't know if I did or not, but she got me started. I had one of my first poems published because of her in a national high school poetry anthology called Young America Sings. And I found those books on the shelves and thought I would read that one. And again, it has to do with flowers. It's called An August Rose. Dewy soft it seemed to be, with velvet heart and tear, of blood black red and glowing tones, my own creation dear. Beauty rare on an August day, the priceless type of rose, of pastel perfume fragrance that so few people know. Graceful bloomer of slender stem with leaves of burning green, whose buds of perfect beauty unfold a lovely dream. And that's what I wrote. Continued to write. Mrs. Rosberg, I think she was my senior English teacher in my senior year. She was a very lovely lady, and she encouraged me even more to continue to write. And so I did. Well, I get to college, and my first college was the State University of New York at Cobleskill, where I was, believe it or not, getting an applied science, associate in applied science in ornamental horticulture, which of course is the study of plants, growing things, greenhouse growing, florist work, landscaping. While I was there, I continued to write. And I happened to write a poem called Shattered Petals. Shattered Petals was selected out of 30,000 other poems to be one of the best, and they put it in an anthology called Pegasus for the years 1964 to 1968 by the National Poetry Press. Let me read that one. Are there more blossoms than shattered petals, more broken twigs than sturdy limbs trembling within the wind? Are there more tears and love than sweet spring's rhapsody of showers? Are there more butterflies bathed in daylight than bat wings blackened by night? Yes, there are more shattered petals than blossoms, but the flushed pink hearts of the blossoms will never turn to dust in my mind. And that's when I felt even more like a published author. Well, life goes on. I switched over to become an elementary teacher. So I went to the State University of New York at Geneseo, and I had an English professor who said to me, "Gene, you can't write." And he proceeded to tell me all these negative things. He just basically crushed my spirit for a short time. And then I somehow got a hold of some of his writing, and I was reading it thinking, well, you know, he must know what he's talking about. Until I read what he was writing, and a lot of it was just plain vulgar trash. And I thought, he's wrong, I can write. So I began to believe in myself again, and started to write a little bit now and then. Well, I graduated, I got married, had a family, then began to write some poetry. I had some poems published in magazines and some anthologies. And then I happened to find this book on the shelf. A lot of these things you forget about. But this is a collection of poems by the South Dakota, New Jersey, and Wyoming Society of Poets. See that? And I had a poem in there, and this one is not related to flowers or plants. It's called For My Children. Let their conflicts be like summer storms, only there to clean the air. Let their losses be like autumn leaves, only there to build on. Let their burdens be like snow on the boughs, only there to strengthen them. Let their sorrows be like spring rains, only there to make them grow. Another published piece. Well, I began to enjoy children's books more and more as I read them to my own family and to my class, my students in my class. The books continued to get better and better. The artwork became very impressive. The stories were good. So I thought, you know, I really would like to write children's books someday. So I began to dabble. But I was too busy teaching and raising a family to really do much. And then, one day, my wife spotted an ad in the magazine. And it was about the Institute of Children's Literature. And there was an aptitude test you could take. Well, she said, Gene, why don't you take that test and see, you know, if that's right for you? Well, I did. I took the test, did very well on it. I was accepted. But I couldn't afford it. There was no way. But my wife, being the loving, supporting wife, she said, you know, if you really want to do this, we'll make it work. And so we began putting some money away each month for that class. And in 1983, I received my diploma from the Institute of Children's Literature. Well, now, I began to feel like I'm going to become a writer. So I started writing more in my free time. I set up a small writing area in our bedroom. My wife, again, had bought me a really nice, sturdy, small desk. I joined the Wyoming Writers, and I began attending writing conferences and retreats. And I treated myself as a real writer. But I still couldn't type. And to this day, I still can't type. In December 1986, the Johnson County IRA helped fund a trip for me to go to see Tommy DePaulo in New Hampshire. He was putting on a workshop. And that for me was very instructional as well as inspiring. Came back all excited and started writing some more. In 1988, I won my first prize. It was the second prize in the Wyoming Writers Contest. And I received a check for $45. So there was proof now that, you know, things were going to turn out and I was going to be just fine. Yeah, well, right about then is when I became a collector. And in my haste to get over here to the library, I left it at home, but I have a tub full of rejection letters that I bring to schools and I share with the classes, and, you know, so they can see that it really wasn't quite as simple as they make it sound in the movies. My son Darren, I don't remember how old he was exactly, but like I had said, things were tight. So in order to get money for postage to mail things out, because in those days you basically mailed them out, snail mail, he and I would go out and collect aluminum cans. And then the money that I made from the cans went to postage. Still think about that. It was pretty special. Well then, this is a big event in my life. In 1989, I discovered in the library, I believe, a brochure for the 5th Annual Highlights Foundation's Writers Workshop at Chautauqua, New York. It was, you know, this was something really special, and I thought, gosh, I sure would like to do that. And I dreamed about it, and I used to sit there and I'd read it over and over, and read about the classes they were giving and the authors that would be there. But again, money is always the problem, it seems. What I did then was I thought, you know, it didn't say anything about a scholarship. So I thought, why don't I write a letter and see if they would be willing to give me some kind of scholarship. And I explained to them, because at this point in my life, I was teaching full-time. I had a job at the flower shop on weekends and holidays, and in the 3 evenings a week, my wife and I would go out and clean the phone company. So I was a pretty busy fella, and I told them that, and I said, but I really have a dream of becoming a writer. So I sent the letter off, and then tried to put it out of my mind. Well, that was kind of hard to do. But one Sunday morning, we get a phone call. I pick up the phone, and this man, whose name I do not remember, said, Gene Gagliano? And I said, yes. He said, just happy to inform you that you have won a full scholarship. We're going to fly you out here to the conference. Room and board is taken care of, and you'll be on your way. And we'll send you all the information and the tickets. And I thought, wow, this is great. Things like that don't happen very often. So I went, and I was overwhelmed with the amount of information that I picked up. I was lucky enough to spend time with Eve Bunting, and actually we still keep in touch, and Lois Lowry, and Pam Conrad, and Walter Dean Myers, who I guess recently passed away. They were all inspiring. And just, you know, how Walter Dean in particular, how hard that man worked. We had breakfast together one morning, just him and I, and he said one day he won the Nobel Prize, it was a Caldecott and one scholarship, right? Anyways, it was 3 things that he won. I can't remember now, mine is going blank. But he got it all in one day. And he was just, you know, flabbergasted. But he worked really hard. He remember he lived in a little one-room apartment, and he had this. He said he had a typewriter underneath a hanging light bulb, and that's where he wrote. So he was an inspiration. Later, I joined the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, and I went to a retreat in Colorado where I met Will Hobbs in 1991. Learned a lot from that man. Really liked his work. And I decided I want to be like him because he was kind, considerate, he was affirming, encouraging, and he didn't have his head in the clouds, and he wasn't arrogant or stuck on himself. So that's how I wanted to become. And we eventually became friends because we'd see each other fairly often. And at one point at the conference, he said, let's go for a coffee. So I went with him and got away from all the chaos at the conference. And he said, you know, Gene, after I was talking with him for a while, he said, you're just about like right here. Pretty soon you're going to be over that hump. Just keep doing what you're doing. Well, he was right. And one of the best pieces of information that he gave me was get a computer. Because you can change. He said you can move paragraphs around, and then, gosh, that sounded great. And I thought, yeah, but a computer is expensive. So then I had another friend say, I got an idea. He said, you were going to refinance. He said, when you refinance, why don't you buy yourself a computer? I thought, sure, I can do that. So I did, and that did help me out a bit. Then in 1992, I went to another SCBWI retreat in Colorado, and I met Bruce Colville. He was a second grade teacher, and he and I connected because he was just as goofy in the classroom as I could be. And we have kept in touch and became friends, and whenever he's in the area, we go to dinner. Nice man, and I learned some things from him as well. In 1994, I took part in the Wyoming Writing Project, which helped encourage me even more. I attended 3 Wyoming Writing Project retreats from 1996 to 1998. They were held at the Spiro Wigwam Ranch up in the Bighorn Mountains. And it was in the summer. And out of that came 2 of my books. One was called Inside the Clown, which was over here someplace. Inside the Clown, which is used by many guidance counselors now. Once they read it, they think it's really great for high school kids. It's the only young adult that I have written. Then we had Falling Stars, this one. Now this one, I should say, Inside the Clown is based on, what do you call it? It deals with teenage suicide and depression, but it's a positive book and it tells how you can get help. This one, Falling Stars, I wrote 2 years after my father passed away from Alzheimer's disease. It's the only way I could write it. I couldn't deal with it at first. But it's written from the perspective of a young boy. It's a story about a boy and his dog and his grandfather. It's contemporary. It takes place here in Buffalo, Wyoming. It's a good story as well. In 1995, Bruce gave me a phone call. Bruce Colville. And he said, Gene, how would you like to help me out? And I said, sure. He said, can you write a ghost story for me? And I thought, yeah, I've never written one, but I could write a ghost story. So I wrote a ghost story, and I mailed it to him. And he got back to me, and he said, Gene, I can't take it. We can't use it. I said, well, what's wrong with it? And he told me, good, positive constructive criticism is very good. Well, I took his constructive criticism, worked with it, and it wasn't long he called and said, break out the champagne. He said, your story's been accepted. And it was called The Hand, and it's in a collection called Bruce Colville's, what did I do with that one? Bruce Colville's Book of Nightmares. And it was a big deal, and at school they made it a big deal. They had a book signing for me and a party in the evening, because they knew how hard I had been working towards this. Now another thing that happened, and I left this out, when we were at the Wyoming Writing Project, we all got a chance to write and read our writing and help each other out. Lots of pictures. We put these books together, and this one, I did the cover, sketched the cover. And then I looked at it, and on the back, I realized I'd written a poem. Another one of those I'd forgotten. And it's called the 1997 Wyoming Writing Project Retreat. We came with spruce spire aspirations, seeking serenity and time to search our hearts in larkspur-stitched meadows. Alpine breezes provided breath for the soul. We gained strength from frosted granite peaks in each other. Streams inspired us with light-hearted song. We came, writers sharing lives during the summer solstice, bonding in nature. We left with memories etched like pine temples against the Wyoming sky. I should read that to you. All right. Then somewhere along in this timeline, and I don't really remember, and I couldn't find anything to verify it in my files, but I wrote a picture book series called Old Granny Cupcake, and it was rhyming, and it was fun, and the company picked it up. They were very excited about it. They started illustrations, which I was excited about as well. But then somebody here in town, got a hold of it and they went to the newspaper. So they jumped the gun and made me do this. They didn't make me, but I did it thinking everything was going to be fine. Then there was a budget cut. And being the low man in the totem pole, I was cut. Well, in all honesty, when I found out, I went to my room, shut the door, lied down, just lay down to bed and sobbed, because this was going to be a series of books, and I was so excited that I finally made it. Well, that didn't happen. In 2000, I had a story called "You'll Be Good for Him" in Chicken Soup for the Preteen Soul, and it's about a student that I had here in Buffalo who had cerebral palsy. And everyone used to say, "Oh, you're going to be just good for him." Well, it may have been true, but he was just as good for me. I learned a lot from that young man. And today he's a very successful young man, married with children, and got a good job and everything. Inspired by Pam Conrad's book, when I met Pam at Chautauqua, a book called Prairie Songs, and if you find it in the library, it's a wonderful book. I wanted to write a book about the West, something like that that would grab the heart. And that's when I wrote Secret of the Black Widow. Secret of the Black Widow was rejected 24 times. And then the, what do you call it? It became an Indian Paintbrush Award nominee. And I think it was in 2004 or 5. It didn't win, but it was nominated. Children love it, and I know a lot of teachers still use it today. However, it is out of print. And that was this little book here. Some of you librarians may remember it. It takes place in 1890 when probably we were getting our statehood. In 2003, I had Inside the Crown published, as I had said. And then, again, people ask me about that one because they want to use that in their classes sometimes. And it's a good one for upper, high school, basically. 2003 also, I got a hold of the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators bulletin. And there was an ad in there, and it said they were looking for someone to write the Wyoming, part of their series for all the states, alphabet book. Well, I latched onto that right away. I sent in a resume, and I sent in some samples of my rhyme. Sure enough, we got a contract. And that's when C is for Cowboy came out. Susan Guy did this cover. She did all the artwork. And I think everybody's seen this book, but I just like to always read that first page, which I usually do at the schools too. A is for altitude of mountains that soar. The Grand Tetons rise straight up from the floor. Called by many the Swiss Alps of our land, under star-scattered skies these treasures stand. And one of the things I point out is that the Grand Tetons are still growing. They grow at a rate of 1 inch every 100 years. It's kind of amazing to me. In 2004, before I go any further though, Susan Guy illustrated that book as well as Four Wheels West. She was a wonderful, extremely talented artist who became friends. When the book was being made, I had all the script done, and they kept telling me they didn't have an illustrator. And then one day they told me they had an illustrator, but they wouldn't tell me who she was. They like to keep their authors and artists separated. And I mentioned it at school, and someone said, Susan Guy. She says, that's an artist that lives here in town. I said, you gotta be kidding me. I said, no, she does. She lives here in town. Well, come to find out that we were in the community choir together, and she was 7 seats down from me. We met, we became friends, especially when we went on tour. A wonderful gal, and she did the second book. The third book, they thought she wasn't quite right for it, because she was so good at the Western stuff. And sad to say that about 2 years ago now, she passed away from early onset Alzheimer's. In 2004, Falling Stars came out, and that's the one about the grandfather and the boy. 2005, Prairie Parcels was the one that I self-published. And this is the book that Governor Meade read that helped him decide what to do about the appointment. I did the sketches. Of course, I wrote all the poems. I want to read just one here. This one's called Cottonwoods. You know how cottonwoods are pretty much a staple here in Wyoming. And there's a sketch of that as well. Now, I've never done this before. This is what I'm doing right now, so hopefully you're getting the idea. Called Cottonwoods. Monarchs of the prairie, stretching, arching limbs, bending, groaning under the expansive weight of sky. Billowy mounds of green pulsing in the wind, open prairie sentinels or soldiers guarding streams. Cottonwoods, harbingers of life, source of sacred summer shade, mother of tufted seedy snow, autumn's phantom of gold, living skeletons of winter. Cottonwoods, solitary survivors of homesteader dreams, bald eagle's perch, cattle's cooling comfort, nature's seasonal billboard, man's friend. Excuse me. In 2006, they had asked me to do a counting book. They were happy with the alphabet book, so they asked me to do Four Wheels West. And again, most of you have seen this book. Four Wheels West has some really fascinating things in it as well. This is one painting that she did. Remember, these are watercolors. These are the Basque dancers that live here in Buffalo. She did an amazing job on that. I just thought that was neat. In that book, that's the book that I learned doing my research, that it takes a ton of sugar beets to make 225 pounds of sugar. It's pretty interesting, I think. All right. I wrote my teacher's dances on the desk during the years I was teaching at Metal Art School, because I used to jump up on a desk and dance once in a while. I self-published it. My daughter Gina did the illustrations. And I thought, you know, I'm going to send this to my editor at Sleeping Bear Press. And in a month, I had a contract. They redid the book, which was fine. And where is that book? Here it is. And of course, the kids love this one. Now, I've done 152 schools, and this poem is the favorite of all. It's called a whoopee cushion. Let me share it with you. Bradley put a whoopee cushion on the teacher's chair. Sarah said he wouldn't, so I guess it was a dare. Teacher's old and kind of frail. Wasn't very fair. I thought he'd get in trouble, but Bradley didn't care. She didn't seem to notice as she sat down in the chair. She only smiled, excused herself, and gently fanned the air. That's a fun one. That won the Delaware Diamond Children's Choice Award in 2010. After I did these two books, I thought, what am I going to do now? So I got to thinking, you know a lot about plants, you love plants. Why don't you write a book about plants? So I suggested writing a book, an alphabet book on plants. Sent in, again, a resume and some samples, and they accepted it. So in 2009, V is for Venus Flytrap was published. This is also a beautifully illustrated book. However, it was illustrated by Elizabeth Traynor. And I want to show you one painting here. It's just so neat. Beautifully done. Again, watercolors. Can't imagine how they do that. I also had, in 2010, a short story, a Christmas story, in this book called Celebrate the Season. That was 2010. And one day, I got one of those phone calls that all authors would like to have, and that is, would you be interested in writing? And I said, yeah. They asked me to write a board book about the state of Wyoming. And I thought, sure, I can do that. And it's so funny because I'm on the phone with her, and she's talking about this board book, and I'm trying to act real cool. Of course, she can't see me. So I go, she's going, would you be interested in doing that? And I go, can hardly wait. Well, I did write the book, and it was a very successful book. It still is. As a matter of fact, in the bookstores, they say that's the one book that they can't keep in stock. And it was used for a fundraiser for the state library in 2010. Parents tell me, especially parents of little kids, that it's one of those books that they ask them to read over and over and over. And I found, going to all these schools, that the kindergarten classes and the first grade classes actually use it. Well, then I got another phone call, which was a real blessing and a surprise, from Zach Pullen. When I met Zach one time, he said, you know, Gene, he said, I'd like, well, he was signing my the toughest cowboy book, and I was doing C's for Cowboy. And we signed each other's books. He wrote something to the effect that he would like to do a book with me someday. I thought, that's nice of him. Nothing's going to come of it. Well, he calls me up one day and he says, hey, Gene. I said, yeah, what's Zach? What's up? What do you know about mammoths? And there was a pause, and I said, you mean like those big, hairy elephant kind of things? He laughed. He goes, yeah. I said, well, not much. He said, well, you better find out because we're going to do a book together. And that's how we came up with D in the Mammoth. Now, if you haven't seen D in the Mammoth, one of the reasons is it's published by the Tate Museum, and you don't get the publicity or the marketing that you do with bigger companies like Sleeping Bear Press. If it had, this book would have sold bunches. It's a true story told as a tall tale of the largest mounted Columbian mammoth in all of North America. Happy to say that it's done well. He made it like a journal because it has two covers. One, two, there's the other one. And each of these paintings took him 25 to 30 hours a piece, and they're all oils. They're beautifully done. He actually stuck in a caricature of me. For those of you who've seen the book, you might have recognized it. It does, I have to admit, it does look like me. Not my better me, but just like me. And it comes with a DVD. The DVD interviews Zach in his studio, Kent Sundell, the geologist that dug it up, and myself, I read the book, they show the pictures. It won the Wyoming State Historical Society Award for Best Fiction in 2010-11, and then it represented the state of Wyoming at the National Book Festival in 2010-11. That was a pretty big thing for me. In 2015, Angel's Landing came out, and I just want to read the back of that. These are the two books I'd really like to focus on because they're new. Most of you have not seen Angel's Landing. Here's what it says in the back. 13-year-old Ricky Atwell is going to tour the southwestern United States for 8 weeks with West Wind Summer Traveling Camp. During the summer-long journey, Ricky will experience a boy's dream of adventure while visiting many famous national parks like Zion, Grand Canyon, Rocky Mountain, and other famous landmarks like the St. Louis Arch. He will encounter severe storms, flash floods, bears, tarantulas, desert heat, summer snow, the complete darkness of a cave, and the buoyancy of salt water. Ricky must also deal with his fears, especially of heights, all while trying to fit in with a group of wealthy teens. And in the end, he must confront his fears in order to save lives. It's a high-adventure book, and it was great for the centennial celebration of the National Parks System because there's a lot of geography, history, geology about the parks in the book. Recommended for good readers in 3rd grade up to 8th grade. Here we go. This next one, this is my latest. It came out in the spring. It's a middle grade fiction, again, for probably 3rd grade up to 8th grade. It has a good lesson in it, but it also is very funny. called Booger, and it has a great cover. You see it up close. Here's what it says. Get this part. Half the truth equals double trouble. Kind of sets you up, you know what's going on. Stretching the truth causes problems for 12-year-old Melvin Allen Berger, known to his friends as Booger, when he tries to earn money to replace his wrecked bike. It's the summer of 1957, and he needs a bike in order to spend time with his friends. Walking Mr. Finelli's dog causes plenty of problems for Booger and the neighbors. Things only get worse when he turns to babysitting mischievous twin boys to make money, especially when one of them thinks he can fly. When those jobs fail to earn him enough money, he resorts to baking, which ends up in smoke. Booger makes one last attempt to make money by helping a fussy elderly widow named Mrs. Prescott with odd jobs around her house. He tries hard not to mess up. In the end, Booger must decide whether or not to tell the truth and risk losing his job and his last chance for a bike. It's a fun one. A lot of it's based on stuff that I did when I was a tween, just a few years ago. All right. Well, as most of you know, I have been appointed by Governor Matt Mead to be your new Wyoming Poet Laureate. And I will continue to do my best to promote reading and writing around the state. My writing career has been a journey, and I've been blessed. I tell children, if you have a dream, you can make it happen if you truly believe in yourself. It takes a lot of hard work, practice, patience, persistence. I owe much to my family and friends for their love and support, and to all the people who support authors, especially librarians. Please consider me for a school visit. I've done 152 school author visits, lots of conferences, library presentations, retreats, festivals, and any school that I visited will tell you the presentations are interactive, informative, entertaining, and inspirational. I'm listed on the Wyoming Art roster, and they can help you fund my visit with an online grant. Check out my website at www.gargene.com. Once again, it's www.gargene.com. Thank you for the opportunity to share my writing journey with you.